For our hypergeometric probability distribution example, we have Playtime Toys Incorporated, and they employ 50 people in the assembly department. Out of those 50, 40 of the employees belong to a union and 10 do not. 5 employees, which we assume is going to be out of the assembly department, are selected at random to form a committee to meet with management regarding shift starting times. Okay, the first thing we want to do is to find out what our values are. As I've done before, we have our hypergeometric distribution formula over here, and if you happen to forget what the book said or what is the answer to each of these, you can look down here. So n is the size of the population, or uppercase N, that is. So in this case, our population is 50 employees. S is the number of successes, or those who belong to a union in the population, and we said that was 40 out of 50. And N is the size of the sample that we're going to select in order to form the committee. In this case, that's 5. So we have our information in here, and now we can go ahead and determine what is the probability that 4 of the 5 selected for the committee belong to a union. So we're looking for the probability that 4 will be selected. We can put the formula in here, and in Excel the formula is called Hypergeometric, if you want to call it that. So we have that in there, and as with the other formulas, you can punch in your numbers right here in the cell block itself, but we'll go ahead and pop up the dialog box for clarity's sake. And we have, as I've done on the other pages, a translation table so that we know that the sample underscore S is actually referring to the X value. And in this case, what is our X value? That's what we're trying to find out. That's the probability that 4 of the 5 selected belong to a union. So we put the 4 in here. The number underscore sample refers to our lowercase n, which happens to be the size of the sample of some employees selected to form a committee, and we have 5. The population underscore S is the number of successes in the population. You can look down here and it shows that as well. And those, in this case, the number of, and the comparison is over here, that's uppercase S. So the number of successes in this case are those who belong to a union in the population, and that happens to be 40. Then the number of people in the population is 50. And again, over here we have our uppercase N and our translation table. So we can hit OK, and we have our value there. Now we put all those values in individually, but in order to fill out the rest of the table, we'll go back in and we'll make the 4 a cell reference instead. Now when we copy it, Excel appropriately adjusts the calculation. Now one thing you'll notice when we look at the hypergeometric distribution formula in Excel, there is no true-false for cumulative here. So if we wanted to calculate a cumulative distribution, we would have to do that manually. And we can just take this value, and for the second one we want to add this first value plus the probability of success of 1. In other words, what is the probability that we would select 1 member of the 5 for the committee that belong to a union. And then we can add that and continue to bring that formula down, and we total it up and we get 1 down here, which is what we would expect to get. So what is the probability that 4 of the 5 selected for the committee belong to a union? We can look right here. That's quite a lot. So it's 0.43. What is the random variable X? X is the number of union members selected for the committee. We already answered that. And look, we have the megastat label in there just to remind me to go look up the megastat approach. So again, we're going into probability. This time, is it a continuous or a discrete? Well, we're still talking about discrete probability distributions. We can go in here. Normally it'll default to be binomial, but I was in there a second ago. Now it's a little clearer here what values to put in then in using Excel's function, kind of a cryptic message. So we know that we're going to put in the n population size. Now we can just type in the numbers for this case. We don't have to do cell references, but you could if you wanted to. And then our S is the number of successes, or those who belong to a union, in the population, and that's 40 out of 50, and our sample size is n. And we'll leave the display the graph up just for the sake of clarity on what the distribution looks like. And there we have it. Our value is 0.4313, the same as what we got here, 0.4313. And you can notice that your cumulative probability values are also the same as what we calculated, although we have more decimal places than did the Megastat version. And looking at our distribution here, it looks to be a little bit negatively skewed, and that is hypergeometric distribution.